Wait, don't click off. I know promises are made. No, this is not the setup right here. You have to understand a few mistakes before you understand what is good. This is my first attempt at a solar rack. As you can see, I made it totally out of wood. I figured this would be the cheapest, easiest way to get up and running in solar. This was wrong, of course. There are many things wrong with this. Most of all, that it's made of wood. You can make some of the rack out of wood, but not all of it, and this is far too much of it. As you see by the ugly bracing, it took a whole lot to get that thing to quit moving around in the wind and to actually become stable. I'll show you something a whole lot better. Here, let's go look at something else. This corrects most of the mistakes that were made with the first one. As you can see, the solar panels are mounted to Unistrut. The Unistrut gives them something firm to mount onto that will not twist. That was a problem with the first one. I do not recommend using Z-clips whatsoever. This is what I think is the ultimate method to hold it up. The supports here go from the bottom to the top, make it ultra rigid. As you can see, I can't even shake it. It is designed to be tiltable in the climate that we're in. As you can see, it's winter here. The panels need to be at a really sharp angle. I have not finished this mount yet, but right now the panels are adjustable. If you look up at the top, I'll show some close-up photos of it. But if you look up at the top, the bolts act as a hinge, which allow the panel to tilt at any angle that I could need. Currently I have them at about 30 degrees. The tilt increases the output exponentially, especially in the winter. In the winter, it is important to be able to tilt your panels. That is something that's missing from the first revision. I have them locked at a 45-degree angle, which I thought was good for here. Also, mistakes with the first one. It is not actually facing south. Somehow I got my bearings off, which is something you need to consider. You want to make sure that the panel aims perfectly south. I'll show in some pictures here just how far off it truly is. You don't want to make those kind of mistakes with your solar setup. You want to have your panels facing the optimal direction. This ended up working in my benefit, however. I consider the old array to be my breakfast array. That is the array that is the first to come up in the morning. Typically it's producing full output around 8-9 o'clock in the morning, which works out perfect for me, and we have gotten very good output with it. However, this solar panel should put out, or array, should put out a lot more power, and I'm looking forward to it in the summer, especially when I run the AC. Last year I had to run the generator in order to run the AC about 3 hours per day. This year I look forward to not having to run it at all. Currently on this rack I have 1.5 kilowatts of Q cells monocrystalline panels. They seem to produce a whole lot better in this type of climate than the polycrystalline do. When it's overcast like this and there is no sun, these still have a reasonable output. As a matter of fact, I'll include some graphs showing exactly what I get, and they produce a phenomenal amount of power for what essentially amounts to absolutely no sun. I have been very impressed with these panels, but I did leave the rack large in order to be able to put on different panels for testing later if I do decide to get into something larger. This rack, I'll include basic design plans for how I made it, but I do not think that you can make a cheaper rack that will hold a reasonable amount of panels. The Unistrut is truly the secret to it, and I do plan on fixing the previous array that I showed you, my first array, and putting all those panels also on Unistrut. That also helps to keep all the panels facing exactly the same direction, which is important because of course the weakest panel is going to decide the output for the entire array. So if you have one panel that is not facing in the exact same direction as the others, the output of all of them will suffer. I will take a moment to discuss just why this is a stupid design. First and foremost, the wood that is used as a support for the panels tends to warp and bend even if you use a treated wood. It does not stay true to form. The Z-clips end up bending to give way for any deformations in the wood, which does not work out well for the panels if the stand shifts. When I constructed the stand, these supports were not here. I did not realize that the entire stand would shift. That's why I want you to learn from my failures. Do not make your array out of wood. This one has managed to survive. It is stable. As you can see, I can shake it now. It does not move. The supports have made it more stable. However, this design here is not smart. You do not want these supports to be made of wood. You do not want to use Z-clips to hold on your panels. If you're using large ones, this is even more true. The fact that these Z-clips in this setup have lasted this long is just a testament to stupidity. You also see the wasp tried to make a nest. But this array is a 1.2 kilowatt array, and this array has powered us all this time, which goes to show that even if you do set something up that is suboptimal, you will get a decent output out of it. We had made more than enough power to power ourselves with this, with the exception of the lean days in the lean months in December and such. I'll include some graphs showing the output difference with this new array. How I ended up connecting them, since the voltage is so similar, I ended up connecting them in parallel. When I was connecting it, the seasons were changing. So you see my wire laying there on the ground. That wire is the wire coming from the other array over there. I'll include a shot showing exactly how I buried it over. I'll also show you the tool that I used to do it, which is a very handy tool. And if you're going to be installing your array, you want to make sure it's far clear of any trees or shadows or anything else. This likely means that you're going to have to run some wire to it. So this tool is the ultimate tool for the job. It is a Wilton thin line trenching tool. As you can see, it's almost like a shovel, only it doesn't scoop, of course. It is built to do exactly what your dad always told you not to do with a shovel. To drive it into the ground and to wrench it back and forth with all of your might, just as hard as you can. And what you end up leaving is a cavern underneath that you can run your cable in. The one that I have here is an 18-inch thin line trench. They do make them bigger. It can also go through rock. It tends to move rock as you go through and you wrench it back and forth. It will move rocks out of the way, which is almost like magic if you're running a trench. I can't suggest one of these highly enough. They haven't sponsored me or anything. I just love the tool. I also use it for other things. You would be amazed what this is good for, even clearing ice. I guess what I want you to take away from this video is to think about how you're going to set up your array before you set it up. Make sure it is facing the correct direction for the most sun for your location. Make sure that it's at the correct tilt angle. If you have to pick a compromise, go halfway between, winter and summer, which for my location here is 45 degrees, and you will roughly be the best off. I'll include a link to a site that can tell you the proper angle to mount your solar panels, and it will also show you the different angles for the different seasons. The other thing is, do not make it out of wood. Don't make the same mistakes that I have made here. Learn from my mistakes. You can make the frame of it out of wood, as I have done in the other one. I'll include some basic plans, and that one works really good. The key is having the supports go to the very bottom of the legs and going up just as high as you can. The ability to tilt the panels at whatever angle you need for your season is also a game changer. That array puts out far more power than this array, and that's even considering its slight size advantage, 1500 watts versus 1200 watts. They're also a different type of panel. This one here is polycrystalline, the other one's monocrystalline. I do suggest the monocrystalline if you live in an environment like this that, as you can see, there is no sun. I will include the footage showing the solar output for today and showing exactly what I get on a day like today. You'll be amazed. I think this shot here shows exactly how far off you can be if you're not exactly sure of yourself. I never claimed to be an engineer. I never claimed to be a professional at this when I got started. But this right here, the contrast between the angles shows exactly how far you can be off. Granted, my old array did work. We were able to live off of it. We generated darn near a megawatt of power in less than 6 months' time off of this array here. It did work for us. So even an improperly installed array is better than no array. Or say you can only get sun during this time of the morning. Know that you can truly live off of it. It will work for you. It's not going to be the same as the noontime sun. The sharp angle between the two, when this one has the sun pointing dead at its back, that array is still putting out power, and that is a total game changer. It will make summer a heck of a lot better. We were so close to being able to keep up with the air conditioner that this year I know we'll have it nailed. This is going to be the first in a series of videos about how we live here off-grid. Electricity is a big part of how we live here. I know a lot of people are willing to go with propane refrigerators and compromises such as that. We just weren't willing to do it. We also do not have an unlimited budget either. I've seen other YouTube channels that have equipment that just make me drool. But this equipment is reasonably priced, and you can live off-grid for a decent price that a person can afford. You don't have to be rich in order to make it. This array alone, if we really had to do it, we could have lived off of it. The other array is true excess. It makes sure that on days like today, we are able to have enough electricity. I think it's also important to realize that there will be days that you will have to run on the generator. A day like today, I can expect to get roughly 1.5 kilowatts, which to me is good. You figure that the refrigerator is going to use roughly 800 watts today. You figure that the inverter just running is going to use an additional 700. That's just running the phantom loads in the house and things that you just can't get away from if you live off grid. To be able to generate 1.5 kilowatts a day is awesome. It makes sure the refrigerator keeps going, it keeps the lights on, and anything in excess of that comes from the generator. So you will be using a generator. You will have to come to grips with that. There will be days that you will not make it. I can show you on the graph. I'll flash it up on the screen again. There are days that I've made 200 watts. Those days, you know, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to have enough power in order to run the refrigerator. I'm going to rely on a generator in order to make it. You have to have some alternate source of power. I figured I'd give a view from a different angle just to give a true scope to just how much wire I had to bury. I'll include some pictures, of course, of burying the wire, but there is a considerable distance between there. Make sure that you keep wire size and everything in mind as you're constructing your system. Make sure that you're using a higher voltage array if you have to go a long distance like I'm going. I had to use a 250 volt controller in order to be able to accomplish what I am doing here through a wire gauge that I was willing to purchase. Wire isn't free these days, and sometimes it's better just to bite the bullet and buy the more expensive controller rather than to sink all your money into wire and bury it in the ground. One clear advantage to having your panels at such a steep angle is, of course, snow. Snow is not going to stick to them, which is another consideration. You may wonder why in the world I'd have my panels up so high. They're up so high so that when the snow comes off, it actually has an area to build up in front of it. I am able to control the snow, but it's easier to just have somewhere for the snow to fall, and having them up off the ground just tends to keep them safer. I'm going to be making more videos on the subject. This is just an entry into it, just showing the solar panel arrays and how I have them set up right now. This right here, while it probably isn't the last solution, this is the best solution for now. 2.5 kilowatts of power is more than enough to supply our tiny cabin here and to provide everything that we could need. I guess that's where I'm going to leave it today. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. I'm just doing this as a test just to see if anyone's interested in it. So if you are interested in more content in this, be sure to give me a like, give me a subscribe, and let me know. Thanks.